Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're taking a trip back to Tudor England.
Oh, a fascinating time period, full of intrigue and drama.
Absolutely. And we're so lucky today because you brought some really interesting excerpts from Philippa Gregory's The Other Boleyn Girl.
Yeah, I think these passages really offer this sort of intimate glimpse into the world of Henry VIII's court.
Especially through the eyes of one of the Boleyn sisters.
Precisely. It's like we get to peek behind the curtain, right?
Hmm.
See the ambition, the desire, the sheer struggle to survive in that royal circle.
It's almost like stepping back in time. So our mission, if you will, is to unravel these moments you've shared with us.
Exactly. Understand the web of relationships, the motivations at play, to really offer a richer, deeper understanding of this pivotal period.
Okay, so diving right in. One of the things that really jumped out at me just from these initial excerpts is how ruthless courtly life appears to be.
Oh, undoubtedly, it was a very precarious existence.
You see this like casual acceptance of the Duke's impending execution, and it's framed as a lesson from the king. Right.
Yes, yes. And that chilling line, almost like a motto, a good courtier never refers to unpalatable truths.
It's really striking. You immediately get a sense of just how high the stakes were.
Right. And think about the contrast, the gravity of an execution, yet it's discussed almost nonchalantly.
It highlights how precarious favor was at court. One day you're close to the king, the next.
Well, you're facing very different consequences.
And that pressure to maintain a facade, never betray the uncomfortable realities.
It really speaks to the performative nature of the court. Everyone was playing a part.
And it kind of sets the stage, doesn't it, for Anne Boleyn's immediate calculation when she sees the king taking an interest in Mary.
That's what I find so fascinating, the Boleyn look, this instant assessment of how a situation can be leveraged to their advantage.
Makes you wonder about the masks everyone must have worn. Beautiful exteriors, but underneath, constant strategic thinking.
Precisely. And for the women especially, this wasn't always a choice.
Right, more like a necessity in that environment.
Exactly. A tool for survival, a way to maybe even advance when your own agency was so limited. A really important insight into the limitations of the era.
And it wasn't just Anne either. The whole family, even Uncle Howard, seems to be pushing either Anne or Mary toward the king.
And he says, it hardly matters which one catches the king. Really underscores their ambition, doesn't it?
The families rise above all else. It's a powerful force.
Really makes you think, doesn't it? About family ambition versus individual desires. Was there even a distinction for them?
So the king, we really get a sense of him in these excerpts, right? Shifting affections, the power dynamics.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost palpable.
The way he pursues Mary so direct, almost demanding. He even reminds her of her promise to be kind.
And those gestures, the dropped scarf, the gift of a horse, it's all so theatrical.
Right, like this performance designed to sweep her off her feet. But you sense an expectation behind it, don't you?
Absolutely. That's the key thing, the expectation. It wasn't a reciprocal courtship, not really. It was very much the king exerting his will.
The entitlement, the expectation that his desires will be met, and Mary's caught in the middle.
Oh, definitely. She's experiencing this real internal conflict, I think.
Torn between maybe a genuine attraction to the king and the game she's expected to play.
It really highlights the pressure on her. Limited agency, caught between her own feelings and the family's grand plan.
And you know, in all of this, there's Queen Catherine, this constant presence, always aware of what's going on.
It must have been so tense to know what's happening, to see the king's growing impatience.
She maintains her dignity, though. You see these glimpses of her, these interactions, and there's a strength there.
She was a formidable woman, you know. And her position, her unwavering commitment to her marriage, that presented a challenge to the Boleyns.
A huge obstacle.
Mm.
But you get the sense that the king's desire for a son and maybe his growing interest in Anne.
It just made Catherine's situation even more precarious. The stakes were incredibly high.
And Anne herself, her relationship with the king is fascinating. It fluctuates so much, doesn't it?
It's a real power play, isn't it?
You know, there's this initial disinterest from her, and ironically, that seems to fuel his pursuit.
Oh, absolutely. Classic case of wanting what you can't have.
But then you see this shift. She starts maneuvering, strategizing, playing on his desires.
And eventually, of course, she achieves her goal, marriage to the king.
But you still see that possessiveness, the calculated withdrawals to keep his attention.
I think Anne was far more active in this game than Mary was. That initial reluctance, whether genuine or a tactic.
It worked. It definitely caught the king's eye. And you can see how acutely aware she is of the power dynamics.
She knew how to play the game.
And, of course, the issue of children becomes so central to all of
A
this.
fundamental theme in the Tudor era, really.
You see those differing reactions to the births of daughters versus the desperate need for a son.
The pressure, particularly on Anne, was immense.
It really highlights the importance of succession, the whole idea that the dynasty needed a male heir.
Absolutely. The health of a child, and especially the gender, carried huge political significance for everyone involved.
In the king's own volatile temper, his shifting alliances, his growing interest in Jane Seymour.
All of it paints a picture of a man who was incredibly difficult to hold on to, wouldn't you say?
Driven by his anxieties, his desire for a legacy secured through a son.
I think his personality played a crucial role in the drama that unfolded. Impulsive, strong-willed, and deeply anxious about his legacy.
It made him vulnerable to those who knew how to manipulate him.
And that constant churn of favorites kept everyone on edge, including Anne.
The excerpts you brought also give us this glimpse into the relationship between Anne and Mary.
Oh, such a complex dynamic.
A mix of affection and this fierce rivalry, particularly for the king's attention.
You can almost feel Anne's jealousy, that possessiveness. And on Mary's side, there's resentment.
To be used and then discarded, it's a painful experience.
Being sisters in that kind of environment with such high stakes, it would inevitably create tension.
It's interesting, too, to see their brother George. He's not just a bystander.
No, he's really involved in the family's schemes, isn't he?
You get these little hints of his own desires, his vulnerabilities, and this protective feeling towards his sisters.
It adds another layer to the whole family dynamic, doesn't it? He's both part of the ambition and trying to shield them from the fallout.
Underneath all of this, you constantly sense the ambition of the Boleyns, the Howards, this drive to climb higher, to gain power.
Social mobility was a powerful force back then, especially for families like the Boleyns.
They were relative newcomers to the highest levels of the court,
Hmm.
and they were willing to use some pretty ruthless tactics to solidify their position.
The rewards were enormous if they succeeded, and they seemed determined to achieve their goals, no matter the cost.
It's interesting to see how marriage is portrayed in all of this. There are different perspectives: love, duty, strategy.
Mary's decision to marry William Stafford for love is a really stark contrast to everything else we see.
It definitely goes against her family's ambitions, and you really see the challenges and the implications of that choice for her.
She prioritizes love over a strategic alliance. It's a powerful statement, especially for someone so embedded in the court.
Throughout it all, you also get this strong sense of the limitations placed on women.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They had very little agency in their own lives.
This constant pressure to please, to produce heirs, their roles were so often defined by their relationships with men.
It's a striking reminder of just how different things were back then. Their value was often tied to their fertility, their ability to secure powerful alliances.
And looming over everything is this sense of Queen Catherine's impending downfall.
You see the tension building, the king's desire for an annulment, the political and personal implications were enormous.
And the king's determination to break with Catherine, to defy the Pope. It had repercussions that went far beyond his personal life.
It really was a seismic event. It led to the English Reformation, reshaped the religious and political landscape.
And Anne's ambition is so tightly wound up with Catherine's fate.
She knew that to become queen, Catherine had to be removed, and she pursued that goal relentlessly.
It was a high-stakes game, and she was willing to do what it took to win, even if it meant pushing against powerful forces, even the Pope himself.
She understood the power that came with being queen. It was the ultimate goal, and she wouldn't be deterred.
These excerpts are just full of intrigue, aren't they? Secrets, betrayals, whispered conversations.
The Tudor court was a dangerous place.
This constant sense of surveillance. Appearances were everything. Discretion was essential.
One wrong word, one misstep could have devastating consequences.
And we see those consequences, don't we? The threat of exile, imprisonment, even execution.
The king's power was absolute, and he wasn't afraid to use it. It served as a very stark reminder to everyone around him.
And eventually we get to see Anne's reign, her attempts to establish herself as queen.
But there's instability right from the start.
There's opposition to her rule. The pressure to produce a male heir continues. You can feel the cracks starting to appear.
Despite achieving her ambition, she faced new challenges, new pressures. The king's attention began to wander.
And as things progress, even in these short excerpts, you hear those whispers of discontent, those accusations.
The tide begins to turn against her.
And eventually it leads to her downfall, her tragic end. It's a stark reminder that even achieving your ambitions doesn't guarantee happiness or security.
The things that brought her to power, the ambition, the manipulations, they ultimately contributed to her downfall. It's a cautionary tale, really.
This deep dive has been so fascinating. It's amazing how these excerpts, these little moments, can illuminate a whole historical period.
Agreed. And I think what makes it so compelling is that we see these major events through the eyes of the people who lived them, their struggles, their desires, their fears.
The human element, the personal dramas, it really brings history to life.
Absolutely. We see ambition, love, the fight for survival. These timeless themes play out against this backdrop of courtly intrigue and political maneuvering.
For you, what stands out most about the choices these individuals made?
I think it's that constant tension between personal desire and the demands of court and family. Each character grapples with this in their own way, and their choices, whether driven by love or ambition or duty, ultimately shape their destinies.
And what further questions does this spark for you about the lives of women in the Tudor era, or maybe the nature of power itself?
It makes me wonder about the untold stories, the people outside the royal circle who were nonetheless affected by these events. And it raises questions about how power can corrupt, how individuals navigate morally ambiguous situations when their survival is at stake.
It's a lot to think about. Thank you so much for sharing these sources with us. It's been a truly fascinating exploration.
The pleasure was all mine. I always find it so enriching to delve into these historical moments with someone who appreciates them.
We always encourage our listeners to keep exploring, keep uncovering those hidden layers of history.
It's a journey that never ends, does it?
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.